table. I was in attendance at this very gala on more of a professional level as one of my clients was a sponsor of the event. I distinctly remember sitting there and looking around the room, watching Donald Driver sit on other people's laps, talking to my colleagues and thinking, I have no idea what juvenile diabetes is. But I continued to smile and socially interact as a professional does. Today, I stand before you to tell you I now know exactly what juvenile diabetes is in all its force. This past year has been a journey of shock, heartbreak, change, and so much anger. But it's also been a year that has showed me how resilient we can be when we have to be, that hope does exist in the face of despair, and blessings are very often the small things in life that we so often take for granted. Our journey began 1 year ago this month, when our son Manny, then 9 years old, began drinking a lot of water while we were on vacation. And when I say a lot of water, I mean a lot of water. Given that he is an extremely active boy, running on beaches and carousing with his two younger brothers nonstop, we didn't think much of him guzzling water by the gallons in the 90-degree heat. Once we returned from our vacation for the next few weeks, Manny told us he had bad leg cramps at night. We thought it was growing pains. He told us he didn't have enough energy to go down the steps at home, but showed me his new way of getting downstairs by sliding down on his butt. We thought he had walking pneumonia. He was getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. We thought he had a bladder infection. He could not stop eating everything in sight. We thought he was really growing big time. His stomach hurt. We thought it was the stomach flu. For a couple of weeks this went on, with my husband, who is a physician, checking him out every few days. And still, it escaped us. One Sunday morning, we woke to the wails of Manny from his room. And I won't go into detail, but let's just say he was violently sick. That's when my husband, who was working in the urgent care clinic that morning, he looked at me and he said, you should take him into the clinic once it's open. At that point, what we didn't realize, like so many others confronted with the onset of this disease, was that Manny was slipping into a diabetic coma. He could barely walk to the car, so we could get him to the clinic that morning. He sat slumped over in the back seat, slumped over in the waiting room. Once there, Steve's colleague took a look at Manny sleeping on the exam table, his veins too weak to start an IV, and she ran some tests. While my poor husband continued to see other patients, she delivered the bad news to me. I think Manny has juvenile diabetes. That's not what I was expecting to hear. Time literally stopped for me. Sounds of the clinic were muffled as I digested this information. In my head, when she opened her mouth, I expected her to say, he has pneumonia, influenza, appendicitis, and then diabetes punched me in the stomach. From there, it was a quick trip to St. Elizabeth Hospital to stabilize him, and then a road trip by ambulance to Madison. Our world blurred. He was admitted into the pediatric intensive care unit and surrounded by a team of healthcare professionals to take care of him. There was heartache, shock, and tears as he finally started to come around. One of the first things we told Manny, we are so sorry. I'm sorry. We are sorry for not adding up all the symptoms and getting you help sooner. Manny, being like most kids, readily accepted our apology amidst a lot of hugging and tears. Once he was strong enough, we began the process of learning about juvenile diabetes and how to manage it. It's a disease that I am convinced is one of the most slippery diseases imaginable. Once you understand his carb ratios, the numbers change. Once you assume any sort of routine, the blood sugars start running high. And the emotions that run alongside this disease will bring a parent to their knees. But through it all, Manny has shown us the beauty of strength and courage. 2 weeks after his diagnosis, I went in on Valentine's Day to check in on him during treat time at school. Because it was Valentine's Day, there were a number of treats he had eaten, so we headed down to the office so I could give him a shot. He had a surprise for me. As we stood in the nurse's office, he said, "Mom, watch this," and proceeded to give himself his first ever insulin shot. I would ask all of you in this room, how many of you could give yourself a shot 6 to 8 times a day? How many of you could insert a needle every 3 days? Manny can, and he does. Each day, 40 kids are diagnosed with juvenile diabetes. That adds up quickly to 3 million people nationwide each year. Believe me, Manny doesn't want to give himself shots or insert a needle, but he needs the insulin to keep him alive. 3 years ago, I sat there at that table and had no idea what juvenile diabetes was and the impact that this disease would have on our family. Hope now plays a huge role in our lives. When my son plays basketball and runs down the court, that gives us hope. When I heard of JDRF partnering with another company to research an actual artificial pancreas, that gives me hope. When Manny skateboards without a care in the world, that brings us hope. When I see how much his friends care about him, how other parents help, how his teachers in school take care of him, that gives us hope. And tonight, when we see a room filled with each one of you, like it is tonight, that gives us hope. Thank you.
I think it's supposed to give a rose for it.